What is up? Welcome into this live edition of Couz's Corner. Come on in, belly yourself up to the bar. Let me serve you up a shot of top shelf college football content. That's all we serve up around here. We don't have well drinks. We don't have bottom shelf content. We have the top of the line, top shelf. Okay. We are the, I guess you could say we are the patron of college football podcasts, of West Virginia football channels. Okay. Is that fair? Is Patron top shelf? I don't know. Anyway, welcome in. Thank you all for joining the show. I have to give a shout out to Couz, Cantor, Stonestreet, and Buckner, your personal injury and accident attorneys and medical malpractice attorneys here in the state of West Virginia and Virginia. I want to throw that in. Please give them a call. And BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino. If you want to place your next bet, use promo code YouTube150. You'll get a 150% bonus on your first bet, 125% on your next two, up to $2,000. And let me go ahead and play a quick commercial from Couz, Cantor, Stonestreet, and Buckner. And again, thanks to them for sponsoring the show. Since 1931, the attorneys at Couz, Cantor, Stonestreet, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident, are fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Couz, Cantor, Stonestreet, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. All right. Thank you for being patient and letting me get through that housekeeping. Got to keep the lights on here. If you're watching this on X, by the way, thank you very much for tuning in. I recommend that after the show, you go over to my YouTube channel, check out my past episodes, and make sure you subscribe to the channel over there so you can get access to future episodes that don't appear on Twitter. The only thing coming up on Twitter is my live streams, and most of my content is not live. So if you want to see all of my content, then you need to come and check it out on YouTube. On tap in this episode, we're going to talk about a couple different things. My main focus of the show is going to be the new news that came out about the Pac-12 expanding and adding 4 schools from the Mountain West. And I'm going to talk about how that could impact the Big 12 potentially, the positives and the negatives. And then I'm going to talk about the lines. We're going to go over the BetUS odds for every Big 12 football game this weekend, including the 2 tonight. Kansas versus UNLV and Arizona versus Kansas State, which is not a conference game, by the way. It's not considered a conference game because it was already on the schedule. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about that game because there are 2 Big 12 teams in it. So, and then whatever questions you guys have, as you all know, if you want to lead the conversation in a certain direction, all you have to do is drop a super chat, hit the $sign near the chat box. It highlights your comment. I will be sure to highlight it, read it. And if it's a question, I will answer it. Already have one, and that is Matt Dix. Matt, thank you for the super chat, man. He says, or he didn't even have a comment. He just, it's a $1.99 donation. Thank you, Matt. He says, I guess since Couz has been nice to me, I'll buy the super chat. Well, Matt, you have been nice to me too, man. You support my work here. You're extremely loyal. You comment on every video, usually multiple times. You don't know how much that means to me. What's up, Immaculate? Good afternoon to you, sir. It's morning where you are. It's afternoon where I'm at. I decided to do one of these Friday lunchtime, midday live streams. I did one of these a few weeks ago. The audience seemed to really enjoy it. I get a few minutes I can take here away from work. And so I decided to jump on here and try to do this. I apologize in advance. I got some acid reflux or something more kicking in today, so I'm probably going to be drinking a lot of water during the show. But nonetheless, I don't think you guys care. We're one big family here, right? But anyway, the news came out. Well, we got Browns and Beers, who's a VIP member in the house. He says the Big 12 will be fine. Biggest concern is the PAC probably getting in early on signing a deal with TNT. And let me see if we got any other super chats or member comments here. None that I see. All right, let's get on with the show. All right, we all know the news, right? It's already broken by now. There's no reason for me to go back and read articles or anything like that. But basically what we know, the Pac-12, which at the time was only Oregon State, Washington State, they were able to secure all the rights to the conference, the brand, the assets, everything. They were the Pac-12, right? Fix my camera here a little bit. All right. There were rumors that they were talking to the Big 12. There were all kinds of rumors out there about those two schools, but what it appears they're doing is rebuilding the Pac-12 conference. So they are adding Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego. See, Colorado State, Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State. I almost forgot. There's too many states. Anyway, they're adding those 4 schools to start the rebuilding of the conference. That gets them to 6 teams. They need at least 8 to be considered a conference by the NCAA and the college football playoff. So they have to add at least 2 more by 2026 because they do have that 2-year window to do so. Who will it be? There are a lot of rumors out there. There's rumors that UNLV is pretty high on their list, but there's also talk that UNLV may be tied into Nevada or Nevada. Is it Nevada? Nevada? I don't know. Anyway, I call it Nevada. If that's true and they don't want Nevada, then UNLV may end up getting left out of this, which is ironic because right now, number one, who wouldn't want to be in Vegas? Vegas is the entertainment capital of America, maybe of the world. The Big 12 even had their media day there this year. And they don't even have a team in the state. The PAC had their media event in Vegas. A lot of stuff happens in Vegas. So you would think they would want UNLV. And UNLV's football program, even though they've been in the dumpster for years and years, they're on the come up. They're playing good football right now. They're one of the top G5 brands in the country. Really, really high-powered, explosive offense. Fun to watch. Look forward to watching them against Kansas tonight, as a matter of fact. But that being said, they were not part of this group, but they could be part of the next phase, potentially. So it looks like the Mountain West. And what's ironic about this is, and I saw this on Twitter, I think it was Bill Farley, over Bill Farley on college football on Twitter. I've had Bill on the show. He's a friend of the show. But anyway, he wrote on his Twitter account that apparently, and this may have been in the news, I've been out of town for work for 2 days, guys, so I was out of the loop a little bit on this until I got back home. And actually, I caught Greg Pflugar's show on the way home yesterday. That's how I found out about it originally. But anyway, Bill talked about how the Mountain West and the PAC actually had a written agreement on this deal. So it wasn't done behind closed doors. It wasn't done in secret. So yeah, sorry, I got distracted. I had a text pop up on my screen. But anyway, it wasn't done in secret like all other conference realignment deals. It wasn't a quote unquote poaching. They actually made an agreement, a written agreement. And because of the agreement the Mountain West had with the PAC on the scheduling agreement, then there's a little bit, there's going to be a higher buyout for them to make this happen, for them to get those 4 schools. So they sat down, they hashed out a deal. Hey, we want these 4 schools. This is going to impact our agreement with you for scheduling, future scheduling agreement, whatever. What will it cost us to make this happen? And let's not forget, the PAC has those assets that they are getting from the members who are leaving the league. They get Rose Bowl money. They're going to get all other bowl money from the conference. They still have college football playoff money coming in for the next 2 years. And anything the Pac-12 is going to get, it's theirs, or at least most of it anyway. There will be some NCAA tournament money, a little bit of that that they'll be able to get. So they will have a couple $100 million that they can use to potentially help get these teams in the league. So if they need it to help with their buyouts or whatnot. So that is there to use. Now, how does this impact the Big 12? Well, first of all, and I'm going to have a bad category and a good category. The first one, I don't know that it really falls under either, but I think this will stop the talk of Oregon State and Washington State coming to the Big 12. That kind of makes that null and void, right? Makes it a moot point. It's obviously not going to happen. Not saying it's impossible. Let me adjust my screen here. Not saying it's impossible in the future that Oregon State and Washington State couldn't get in the Big 12, but it looks like It's not happening. I never thought it was going to happen. I thought there might be a possibility, and I've done videos on that. I never predicted it to happen, but I did say it was possible. And Brett Yormark is a deal maker. Maybe there was a deal he could work out to make it feasible. I was never a huge fan of it. As a fan of West Virginia, I don't really want my team going any further west than they already are. Barring unless you were going to grab major brands like the Oregons or Washingtons or somebody like that, that'd be a different discussion. But nonetheless, I just don't see them adding enough value to the league, especially when you add in the additional travel. That being said, I thought it was possible. I think it's still possible down the road, but this obviously takes it off the table in the near future because the PAC is planning to rebuild. And they are not stopping. Like I said, they have 6. They have to get to at least 8. And according to the tweets and articles that are out there, the PAC commissioner has plans to potentially grow even further. As a matter of fact, Jim Williams I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But Oregon State, Washington State, not going to the Big 12, at least not any time in the near future. So that is one way it will impact the Big 12. Now let's look at there are 3 ways this could impact the Big 12, potentially in a negative way. Now, number one, if the college football playoff agrees to add the PAC back in, which I think they would, because the NCAA they're going to be a sanctioned NCAA conference. So I'm not sure how the CFP could keep them out. But if they approve it, it will be one more conference competing for that 5th automatic playoff spot. Right now, the top 5 conference champions get an automatic bid to the playoff. A lot more than likely, it will be the 4 Power 4 champions and then one group of 5. Well, this will create a group of 6 conference potentially. And it's possible this is going to be a pretty good conference, a pretty strong conference with teams like Boise State. Boise State have shown they can compete with Power 4 schools now. Some of these other schools have shown they can compete with Power 4 programs now. And with that being the case, that's going to be a viable conference. It's going to be a tough conference. It's very possible. And heck, Oregon State, Washington State's been competing with Power 4 teams their entire existence, or at least most of it. So it's very possible that the winner of this conference, of the Pac-12 conference, could potentially get the 5th playoff spot over the Big 12 at some point in the future. If the Big 12 cannibalizes itself enough, which it's probably going to do in a lot of years because of the parity, if it cannibalizes itself enough and everybody beats everybody up and everybody ends up with 2 or 3 losses, and you have a Pac-12 champion, and let's say, I don't know, let's throw out another conference. Let's say you have the American champion and the Pac-12 champion both sitting there with 1 loss or 2 losses maybe, depending on their schedule. They could potentially get in. It would probably be 1 loss. Let's say they go undefeated or have 1 loss. They would likely get in over, or potentially could get in over the Big 12 champion. That's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. But it would be 1 more spot, 1 more conference to compete for that 5th and final automatic berth. Now, we all know the format's probably going to change in 2026 anyway. But nonetheless, and even if they go to more automatic qualifiers or whatever, there will be 1 more conference competing for that spot. All right. So, that it may be a moot point, because of the different format. But as of now, if the format today would happen to stay in place, then it wouldn't be. All right, let's move on to point number 2 that I think could potentially be bad for the Big 12. TV deal. The Pac-12 TV deal is up in 2024, I believe. I believe this year. It's either this year or next year. The Pac-12 TV deal is officially up. And right now they have the deal where they're, partnering with the Mountain West or whatever. Actually, the CW. They have a scheduling partnership with the Mountain West. The TV deals with the CW and Fox. Well, I think it's only a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's only a 1-year deal. Is it not? And with that being the case, the Pac-12 will have a chance to renew their media deal before any of the other conferences. and they're basically jumping in front of the line. And now they have now they're going to survive as a league, so they're going to be more likely to get a TV deal. They will have more suitors, more networks and potential streaming partners wanting to do business with them. So they're jumping in front of the line and could potentially take up inventory. Their games could potentially take up an inventory on networks that the Big 12 or other conferences could have gotten. So let's just say, theoretically, the Big 12 wanted to expand, and let's say the ACC does happen to implode. And let's say they are able to add Louisville, Miami, Pitt, Virginia Tech. This is just theoretical. They would have the option to bring on a third media partner to increase the pot, increase the revenue pool for the league. If ESPN and Fox aren't willing to play ball or not willing to pay the full shares. And they could bring on a third media partner. Well, potentially. Well, there won't be as many of those. There may not be as many of those suitors out there for them, number one. And two, even if there are, they may not be willing to pay as much because they won't need the inventory as desperately because they already have the PAC on their network. You got networks like TNT who might want to get involved. You've got streaming services like Amazon, Netflix, whoever that may want to get involved. And then, kind of tied into that, but I put it down as a third reason, is the West Coast time slots that some of these networks want. They would have an option to get that now. And they could even play in time slots that are not traditional. They could play Wednesday night games, Thursday night games, whatever. They could play on non-traditional college football days. Guess who has been talking to networks about doing that already? The Big 12. So if the Pac-12 is able to get a deal done where they play on these non-traditional days, there may not be any spots open for the Big 12 to do that, which could prevent the Big 12 from getting additional revenue on their next deal, or heck, even the current one, if there was any money to be added to it. So those are a few ways I think the Big 12 can be impacted in a negative way, potentially. Again, none of these are earth-shattering. None of these are going to kill the Big 12 or anything like that. But it is ways that could impact the Big 12's future revenue opportunities. And let me show you where I got this from and some of this information from. And it was a tweet by Bob Thompson. Most of you know who Bob Thompson is, former Fox executive. Matter of fact, I'll just read his bio to you. He is principal of Thompson Sports Group, LLC, a sports and media consulting firm, former Fox Sports Network president, and Big Ten Network co-founder. So if there's anybody who knows the landscape of media deals, sports media deals, networks, it's Bob Thompson. But he put out a couple really interesting tweets about this topic. And here's one of them right here. It says, congratulations to Pac-12 on your revival. Let me make sure this is, can you guys make sure you guys can see this? Why is it not sharing? There we go. All right. Oh, I got a couple super chats here I need to address. First super chat, John Teal. He says, PAC by popular demand. Thank God. I love that play on words, John Teal. Thank you for the $2 donation, my man. Thank you for your support. Also, we have a new VIP member here on the channel. Harry Austin, new member. Got to celebrate that. And to celebrate the new VIP member on the channel, I'm putting on the coonskin hat for a few minutes here on the show. That's going to be my celebration. I don't have any fancy noisemakers like some of my friends over at College Football Mafia or Greg Flugar, but I do have a coonskin cap I can put on. All right. Thank you, Harry, for joining as a VIP member. All right. Now let's get in. Let's read this tweet real quick. It says, congratulations to Pac-12 on revival. Lots of questions on what I would do TV-wise if I was the Pac-12. Some one-time free advice. You want any more? Navigate knows where to find me. I love that. But he says, number one, not everything is going to be on linear. What you have with CW is a one-off. Plan to play on every platform, streaming, linear, OTA, cable. It will not only likely increase your revenues, but it also is the smart way to move forward in this new TV world. Number two, gauge interest and ferret out. That's a new word to me. I thought a ferret was an animal. Anyway, gauge interest and ferret out the pretenders as quickly as possible and concentrate on the contenders. Number three, think outside the box. Create new content opportunities. Play different days of the week. Like I just said, don't just do what everyone else does. Who has been trying to think outside the box? Brett Yormark. Is the Pac-12 going to jump in line? Like, you remember how Brett Yormark jumped in line of the Pac-12 to get the new TV deal extension? Could make things be coming full circle, and now they jump him in line for this? Just an interesting nugget. Number four, manage your expectations, and you are less likely to be disappointed. That was kind of my motto in high school. Number five, don't try and relaunch the Pac-12 networks as a linear offering. And six, you have a first mover opportunity. Remember, I said they can be first in line. It won't last forever. Move now. So he's saying move fast, make a good deal, keep your spot in the front of the line. Don't let someone else pass you like Brett Yormark was able to do before. Create these new opportunities. Play these games on different nights, on different days. Maybe play a game on Labor Day, whatever. There are so many different things they could do. Play more late night games, things like that to fill these late night time slots. Big 12 can only do that a few times a year. They don't have that many teams in that time zone, right? This entire conference so far will either be in the Mountain or Pacific time zone. Heck, it might all be Pacific. I'm not sure what times. I guess it's all Pacific time zone actually right now. But it's a lot of, they may end up being in all time zones before it's over with, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just thought that, and here's another tweet that Bob put out about this topic. Let's see if I can find it. I think let me go back here. All right, here. I think this is the one. Yeah, I think it's this one. Pac-12 jumps to first in line on collegiate TV deal front. For a number of reasons, their games will be of value to outlets. ESPN might want more West Coast games for launch of DTC product. That's the one they're going to do or the launch of direct-to-consumer product, I'm sorry. And TNT needs content. Fox and CBS split the current Mountain West Conference package. Let the dance begin. So, again, the Pac has a great opportunity here to get in front. Now, first off, they're not going to be a power conference. Let's go ahead and squash that right now. No disrespect to the schools they're adding. Great programs, great schools, great traditions, some decent markets they're getting here. I mean, we all know the success Boise State's had on the football field, but listen, they've already lost autonomy conference status, and I don't see them getting it back because why in the world would the other four power conferences vote them in knowing that they could take one of their playoff spots? You're not going to do that, right? They're based on the current deal. They would definitely get one of their playoff spots if they added them, or at least they would be more than likely to anyway, right? They're going to be more than likely to get that spot if they're in a power league. So I don't see them adding that in and hurting their own cause here. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. And if those schools, more than likely the schools they add outside of Oregon State and Washington State, none of the other schools were in power leagues. So why all of a sudden would they make them a power conference? That to me doesn't add up and doesn't make sense. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, just being honest. All right. Now, there is one way that I thought of that actually could be a positive of this for the Big 12. And here's what it is. And it's a big if the ACC implodes, I'm going to take this off now. makes my head sweat. But if and or when the ACC implodes, the ACC is going to need to backfill, right? And they could survive, and they may not lose as many teams, right? If let's just say, for example, let's say Florida State and Clemson get out, which we all assume they will. Florida State, Clemson leave. Well, if the ACC already has a backfill plan and already has teams they're planning to add in, then the other teams may not see a reason to jump ship, right? But if the teams they want to add in aren't on the table or don't bring enough value, then the rest of the teams in the ACC, like the Louisvilles, like the Pitts, like the Virginia Techs, whoever, those teams are more than likely to jump if there's nobody to backfill the conference with, because they're going to look and go, wait a minute, there's nobody left. Who are we going to backfill with? We can't backfill with MAC schools. We can't backfill with no offense, but Conference USA schools. There's maybe not even any Sun Belt schools that would fit. Probably not. Your best options are what? AAC schools, maybe some Mountain West schools. So, those would be your best backfill options. Now, some of those could be taken off the table because of the Pac-12 expansion. And let me show you a tweet that Jim Williams, a former director or producer at ESPN, put out. He says, rumor. Keep in mind, Jim is a USF alum, okay? And he worked for ESPN, has connections all over the country. He says, rumor. At Pac-12 commissioner, again, let me make sure this is sharing here. It's not, for whatever reason. All right, now it is. All right, he says, rumor, at Pac-12 commissioner, at TK Gould, is looking east for new members. I respectfully offer a coast-to-coast solution. At UNLV, which we talked about, at Mean Green, which is Tulane, at Rice, at UTSA, USF, UAB, Memphis, would give the conference games in all 4 windows and attract some very good media partners, plus some new recruiting options. Is USF a strong candidate for the new Pac-12 along with some other AAC members? Sports Talk Florida. That's one of Jim's outlets that he works on or works for. So Jim's got a great point. Again, this is a rumor, and he clarifies that. But he says that the commissioner is looking east. They talked yesterday on, I think it was on 365 Sports, that they might be looking at Texas, UTSA, Rice. Tulane's been brought up multiple times. We've heard Memphis's name brought up for a potential backfill. But most of these schools, most of these schools on this list, maybe with the exception of UNLV and probably UAB, have been mentioned as potential backfill options for the ACC if and when Clemson and Florida State or others leave. Well, if those schools are already tied into the PAC and have already signed a grant of rights agreement, it's going to be harder for the ACC to backfill with them, which is going to make it even harder for that conference, A, to get a decent new media deal if ESPN decides not to opt in, or B, it'll be harder for them to survive potentially. So that is one way, and it could actually help the Big 12 pick up some, or even, some ACC members, or maybe more than they initially thought they could get. So that is one positive of this. They could potentially take ACC backfill options off the table, which would allow and look, I hate sitting here cheering for conferences to implode. I really do. But man, the Big 12's got to survive. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and the Big 12 needs to survive. And unfortunately, in order for them to do that as a power league and to compete with the big dogs, they may need the ACC to fold. It's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in. So, again, that's one of the positives, or a potential positive anyway, for the Big 12 with this expansion. Now, let's address a few comments, and then I'm going to talk about the spreads, I should say, the odds for the Big 12 games going on this weekend. All right, let me get to some comments here. Let me make my screen bigger. My blind hind end can't see. All right. Let me see what comments I've missed. Immaculate, I know you had to run. Thanks for joining the show. Hopefully you hear my shout out when you watch the replay. Ron Lowney says Power Conference is about TV markets, not quality of football on the field. It's all a monopoly. Ron, unfortunately, that's what it's turning into, my man. Browns and Beer says Boise is mountain time as well, but the state is split north-south between the mountain and Pacific time zone. Thanks for clarifying that. I wasn't 100% sure. I've never been to Boise or the state of Idaho, so I wasn't sure. Sun Sensational says realignment is constant. You sleep, you lose. Great point. Browns and Beer says Colorado State is mountain time zone at least. We'll check others. Appreciate you doing that behind the scenes for me, man. Ron Lowney says North Dakota State and South Dakota State are the new Boise. No one wants to play them every year. And they're saying that those two schools could be the two of the backfill options for the Mountain West. So those schools could be potentially moving up from the FCS to the FBS in the future. Yeah, Arizona and State fill those slots for us, but again, we only have a couple schools that can. We only have two schools that can fill the Pacific time zone slot, right? They're going to have multiple schools that can do it. Oregon State, Washington State, obviously. Then you've got Fresno State. Then you're going to have San Diego State. You already have 4 teams in that time zone, and then you're going to have Boise State and Colorado State in the Mountain time zone. So you've already got 2 of the time zones covered. If you go grab a team out of Texas or 2, you have the Central time zone, and Tulane too. They would fit that bill. And then you might even get teams from the Eastern time zone if you get teams like a USF or a Memphis. Well, Memphis may be Central, but you get my point. There's a potential here, like Jim Williams mentioned, for the PAC to get teams from all 4 time zones, just like the Big 12 wanted to do and did, essentially. So, again, potential there for them to get time slots, get games on nights of the week that the Big 12 wanted to get, right? Take up some inventory, depending on what networks, obviously, they do business with. All right. Let me see what other comments we got. Immaculate said good sales pitch by Bob. Yeah, talking about Bob Thompson's tweet. You got that right. Steve Ohio, Florida, very loyal viewer here. He says Big Ten now has 4 members on the West Coast. If they decide to schedule late-night games, Fox, FS1, or BTN will control that time slot. No arguments can be made that regarding Big Ten viewership. Great point. Matt, the Big 12 is fine as is. John says I should wear the hat during the backyard brawl tomorrow. Man, I would, but man, it makes my head sweat so bad. I can't wear it for long periods of time. Why didn't we take Boise? Matt, that's a good question. And I actually thought about doing a video on that, but obviously Boise State, there are some things about Boise, and I don't know what they are, other than maybe, I mean, football, you can't argue it's football success because they've had as much football success as any G5 team out there over the last couple of decades, right? So you can't argue it's football success. It might be market, but I tell you what, man, I saw a graph the other day. The state of Idaho is one of the fastest growing states in the country right now. Maybe the fastest. I don't remember exactly where they ranked, but they were definitely in the top 2 or 3 in the entire country in growth. I think the PAC getting Boise State is huge, to be honest with you, because there's potential for them to grow in enrollment. There could be more Boise State fans now interested in watching the game. There would be more TV households that might subscribe to a network or a streaming service or whatever to get your game. So I think getting Boise State is big, and Matt's got a point, but for whatever reason, there was just not enough value there for them to be added. I don't know what the reason was. I'm assuming it was the market they're in. And it could have, maybe they don't carry enough sports. I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. But whatever it was, all the other conferences passed on them. Harry Austin, the new VIP member, says, if Pac-12 just stays at 10, they will not survive. Harry, that's fair. Right now they're at 6. If they add UNLV and Nevada, that would put them to 8. I don't see that happening. I'm just not sure they want Nevada bad enough. I'm not sure they want UNLV bad enough to take Nevada with them. But if they add, let's just say they add UNLV, let's say they add UTSA, let's say they add Tulane, and maybe, I don't know, Rice or UTEP or somebody like that, that puts them to 10, right? You don't think they'll survive. So you see them adding more teams than that, apparently. Do you see them going out east and adding teams like South Florida, Memphis, going that far? Let's see. Ron Lowney says he thinks it's because the big boys don't want to lose to Boise State. You know, Ron, there could be some unhidden messages there. You could be onto something. I don't think that's the case. I mean, they allowed UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati in. They could have made that argument there, but in all fairness, the Big 12 didn't have a choice. They were about to die. So, all right, now let's get on to the odds. Let's take a look at the odds for all the Big 12 games this weekend. Let me get the screen pulled up for you here. All right. We're going to go through these games. Share screen. Add the stage. There we go. Let me take this comment off so we can see it. All right. Hopefully y'all can see that. First one, UNLV, Kansas, the game that's coming on tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Kansas favored by 9 in this game. There's a 9-point spread. Over-under on the game is 57.5. Then you've got the Arizona-Kansas State game that comes on at 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Kansas State favored in this game by 7. Now, interesting bit of nugget here. Arizona's running back, who was supposed to be their start, I think he was supposed to be their starting running back. I don't have his name off the top of my head at this moment. He has been ruled in. He is sitting out this game. There are some eligibility questions with him regarding his redshirt year at his previous school. So in order to, avoid NCAA violations, he's having to sit out. That could be big for this Arizona team. He sat out last week against Northern Arizona. They struggled a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that was the reason, but, it can't help if he's their best running back. If you're an Arizona fan watching this, let me know, is this young man their best running back? And again, I don't remember his name. I just read about it this morning. So that could be impacting the spread here. Over-under on the game is 60.5. You have Oklahoma State and Tulsa playing Saturday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. Oklahoma State is favored by 18 in the game. Over-under is 62. You have North Texas and Texas Tech playing at noon as well. Eastern time, Texas Tech favored by 10. Man, I tell you what, the way they've been playing, I'm surprised the spread's still at 10, to be honest. But over-under on it, and that game is 70. Let's find other Big 12 games. Obviously, you see the Cincinnati and Miami of Ohio. Cincinnati's favored by only 4 in that game. Over-under is 46.5. That makes me wonder how good Pitt really was, who beat Cincinnati last week. If Cincinnati's only favored by 4 on the road at Miami of Ohio, who's a MAC school. All right. Let's keep going. We've got West Virginia Pitt. The spread is now down to 1.5 over at BetUS. And by the way, if you want to play, use promo code YouTube150 at checkout. Promo code YouTube150 at checkout. You get a 150% bonus on your first 2 deposits up to $2,000. And you get a 125% bonus on your next 2 bets. Now, I want to make a correction. There were some previous videos where I said it was 150% on your first 3 deposits. That's information I was given by the folks who are overseeing this. this deal here. They corrected it. It's 150% on your first deposit, not all three. So anyway, and make sure if you play that you play responsibly, please. If you can't afford it, please don't play. All right, let's keep going. We've got Utah and Utah State. Utah favored by 18. Over-under is 43.5. Cam Rising's not playing in that game, by the way. I'm not sure if that would impact your decision there, but in a minute, I'm going to place a bet on one of these games. I just got to decide which one I want to bet on. We have, see if there are any other Big 12 game. Baylor and Air Force. Baylor's up. Baylor is a 16.5-point favorite. Over-under is 41. Man, that's a low over-under. Baylor's been struggling a little bit. New quarterbacks having accuracy issues. Air Force likes to run that weird triple option or whatever it is that they're running. Man, that could be a challenging game for Baylor right there. TCU and UCF, the first official Big 12 conference game of the year right here. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night. It's in Fort Worth at TCU, and TCU is favored by a point. So this is expected to be a tight one. This is going to be an interesting game right here. Over-under is 63. I'm not even touching that game, I'll be honest with you. That one makes me nervous. You have Colorado and Colorado State. Colorado at Colorado State in this one, favored by 7. Over-under is 59. You have Rice and Houston in their rivalry game. If the game is being played at Houston, and they are favored by 5 in the game, despite being 0-2 on the year so far and giving Oklahoma all they can handle last week. BYU and Wyoming at Wyoming, BYU minus 10. That's likely going to be a low-scoring game, and Vegas thinks so too because at BetUS, the over-under is 40. So what is that, a 25-15 game they're expecting it to be basically? And the way BYU's offense has struggled lately, it wouldn't surprise me. Let me see if there are any other. It looks like that's it for the Saturday slate of Big 12, or for this weekend slate of Big 12 games starting tonight. Now, Arizona State played last night. They actually played Texas State, was able to pull off a win 31-28 in a tight one. Some people didn't think highly of Arizona State. And look, I wasn't able to watch the game. I got home late, and when I did get home, I sat down. My Buffalo Bills were playing last night on Thursday Night Football, so I watched that instead. But just watching the highlights, knowing the opponent, knowing where Arizona State was picked, man, Arizona State's 3-0, and Texas State is being picked by many to be the top G5 team in the country this year. Their offense is really good, and Arizona State was still able to find a way to win the football game. So I think that's a pretty decent win for Arizona. Considering most people had them picked to finish as one of the bottom teams in the league, that's a pretty darn good team. A pretty darn good win, rather. And they have Texas Tech next week for their first Big 12 game, and that's a winnable game. Now that we've seen what Texas Tech's doing, now they're playing, Arizona State's likely going to be favored in that game. Man, we could see Arizona State ranked soon. Think about that. Think of Kenny Dillingham in year 2, taking over Herm Edwards, who left it in a mess. They could be ranked in a couple weeks. That is, heck, they might even get ranked this week. Who knows? But we'll see. Probably not because it was an FCS school. I mean, a G5 school, but nonetheless, good win. All right, which game am I going to bet on? Let me see. Kansas by 9. It's not a true home game because they're having to play in an alternate stadium. Kansas State by 7. The way they struggled with Tulane last week, I'm scared of that one. Oklahoma State by 18, but, man, they have a tendency to play down to their opponent at times. Texas Tech minus 10 at home against North Texas. I'll tell you what. I'm putting my money on North Texas in this one, folks, right here. I don't see Texas Tech covering the spread here. So I'm dropping $20 on this one. I don't see Texas. Texas Tech is a really bad football team. This is going to be, the North Texas players are going to be up for this game because they're playing a Power 5 opponent. I like North Texas to I'm taking the points, basically. I don't think North Texas will win the game necessarily, but I don't think Texas Tech covers the 10 points. So I'm taking the points there. All right. anyway, there you go. There are the games for this week. Let's see if there are any questions, comments. Make sure, remember, if you guys want to take the direction, you guys can take the conversation any direction you wish. All you have to do is drop me a super chat, hit a $sign near the chat box. It'll highlight your comment. Yeah, Cam Scattaboo is a great player, but they reined him in last night, man. He didn't get a lot of yards last night. Matt Dix says he's got Arizona and Kansas tonight, with Arizona State winning last night for $1,600 on a pick 3 parlay, or six. I'm assuming you mean $16. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, you got a chance to win $1,600. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Congrats on that win. And good luck to you on tonight's games, Matt. Hopefully you win. Hopefully you pull it off, man. What's up, Kelly McCourt? Matt Dix, Browns and Beers. All right, here's Browns and Beers comment. By the way, because he's a VIP channel member, his comments do get priority. He says, would be interesting to be at the KU UNLV game. Being at such a small venue, somewhat sad WVU didn't go to KU this year. Would have been cool to see a game at Arrowhead, even if it's half empty. Yeah, that's a great point, Browns and Beers. Instead, Kansas is coming to West Virginia next weekend to open Big 12 play. Should be an interesting game. We'll see how each of the teams do this weekend. Matt Dix says Arizona State destroyed Wyoming. Wyoming is the worst I've ever seen. Yeah, they're not very good this year. They're not the typical Wyoming team that they've been the last few years. Ron Lowney says he believes that both Montana schools will be added to the Mountain West. It's got to be the better king. Thanks for hopping in. He says Air Force returns least amount of production in the country. I didn't know that. Appreciate that insight. That should bode well for Baylor then. But, man, those offenses, those triple options and all that, man, those are hard to prepare for. John says bet on the West Virginia game. I'll be honest with you. I'm normally I would, man, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable doing it this time. I really don't. I'm really not. I missed on the Penn State one. I thought West Virginia would cover the spread, and they didn't. They actually lost. So, I mean, I thought they would lose, but I thought they would. I didn't think Penn State would cover the spread. Sorry, I said that wrong. I didn't think Penn State would cover the spread, so I took West Virginia in the points, and didn't get it. So anyway, it is what it is. Browns and Beers says Jalen Daniels certainly had one of the worst games of his career last week. Absolutely. He sure did. Idaho and Montana used to be in the PAC-8 until the late 1950s. Great point. Let's see. Memphis is Central. That split is odd as well. Central time he's talking about. Remember doing the drive from Ohio to Alabama, and the line was about somewhere in Kentucky. Drove through Memphis on the way, and it was Central. Thank you for that, Browns and Beers. Man, you are well-traveled, my man. Well-traveled. Well-traveled. All right. I don't really have anything else. I do want to say, I want to say, score prediction for the Backyard Brawl. I did that in an episode over at, I'm going to give it to you in a second, but I do want to promote my show. Jonathan Martin, who's my co-host on the Golden Blue Breakdown show every week, we gave both of our score predictions on that show. You can go check it out over on my channel once this is over, which will be shortly. But I predicted 31-28 West Virginia. I think it'll be tight. Both teams have some question marks. I think West Virginia is going to have an advantage up front, especially on the offensive side. I think West Virginia's O-line will be better than Pitt's D-line this year. I know some Pitt fans seem to think that Pitt's D-line's really good. They're not bad, but I still give West Virginia a slight advantage. And I think Pitt also, when you flip it to the other side of the ball, I think Pitt has some weaknesses there on their D-line as well. I mean, on their O-line as well, that I think West Virginia can exploit. And TJ Jackson's been playing really well. I think he'll be able to get into the backfield some. I think Sean Martin will be able to get into the backfield some. He was able to do it last year. And I just think they'll be able to create some havoc for that redshirt freshman quarterback, potentially forcing him into some turnovers, some mistakes, some errant throws. And I think that gives West Virginia. I think West Virginia will be able to run the football on the offensive side because of that strong O-line. I think they control the clock, control the time of possession, and win the game. And that way, that takes some of the pressure off their secondary, which has been struggling the first 2 weeks. And by the way, all the blame doesn't go to the secondary. The linebackers haven't covered well either. And the D-line hasn't been getting enough pressure to help the secondary. So it's not just a secondary. It's their coverage overall as a team. They've been struggling. Daniel Gigax, another VIP member, says WVU will win the backyard brawl by 2 touchdowns. I love it, Daniel. I love it, my man. We win every game by 2 touchdowns. What are you talking about? Of course we will. Of course we will. But the backyard brawl, man, I'm excited about it. It's 107th edition of that game. 2 teams that are separated by only 70 to 75 miles. They played every year, I think, from it was like 1950 something all the way to 2011. They played every single year. Obviously, because of realignment, it got broken up in 2011. They brought it back in 2022. It was very exciting atmosphere up there in Pitt. I was able to go to that game. Not going this year. Chose not to even attempt it. Got so much going on in my life this fall. So many other games going. I'm going to concerts, things like that. Just things going on in my personal life, things like that. Nothing bad. It's all good stuff. Just really busy. So the weekends I have a chance to sit home and watch football on the couch, I'm going to do that. Plus, if I'm home, I can do post-game shows for you guys. But anyway, not going this year, but I'm going to be watching it. And that game, we're so excited to have that game on the schedule. Again, it's good for, like Ron says, it's good for the sport. But I do have a little bit of a hot take here. It might be a hot take for some of you. A lot of people want this game to be played on Thanksgiving, and I understand the reasoning behind it. But most rivalry games are now played on Thanksgiving. So the West Virginia Pitt game kind of gets overshadowed by some of the other rivalries, in my opinion. If they have their own unique night, if they're the only rivalry game going on, it'll probably draw more eyeballs to the game. Just a thought. Just a thought. If you got Auburn, Alabama on that same day, or day after Thanksgiving, yep, that's what I meant, Matt. Sorry, I said Thanksgiving, but I think you know what I meant. The week of Thanksgiving. But yeah, I think, now if you get a time slot that's not competing with some of the bigger games, it might be okay. But I kind of like it being unique, if that makes sense, and having its own day. VT is not on our schedule, Ron Lowney. They are not on our future schedules for the foreseeable future. Pitt is from 20 Pitt. Our Pitt series ends next year. We play them this year, and then next year back in Morgantown. Then there's a 3-year break, and then they pick it back up again in 2031. No, wait a minute. See, they play 24, 25. They're off 26, 27. They pick it back up in 2029. But Coach Brown is trying to get it on the schedule for the 3 years, or at least he says he is. He and Rian Baker are trying to get it on the schedule for the 3 years it's not now. Coach Brown actually said at his post at a presser the other day, not a post game, but a presser, that he would like to take the Alabama game off the schedule and replace it with Pitt. So take that for what it's worth. Yep, Matt Dix, you're right. It was on Thanksgiving night. Maybe that's why I said that. I kind of had that in my head, and a lot of people wanted to go back to that. Matt, you're right. It was on Thanksgiving, and all the other rivalry games are the day after, aren't they? So if they had Thanksgiving back, but then you'd be competing with the NFL, and that might be a challenge. The NFL now has 3 games on Thanksgiving, and I'm not sure we want to go head to head with the NFL. You want the spotlight on that game. So again, I kind of like having it. Plus, I don't want to have it right in the middle of conference play either. But that would be the end of the year, though. So that wouldn't. I don't know. I don't really care when they play it. To be honest, I'm not that passionate about it. But I do think it probably has a better chance of getting more viewers by being earlier in the year. So anyway, that's it. Not the day of, he says. Browns and Beers doesn't want to compete with family time, and that's very fair. Very fair. See. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to have to jump off here and get back to work. I appreciate everybody for jumping on here, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate you. Again, want to give a shout out to BetUS Sportsbook and Casino and Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner for being the channel sponsors here. Go check them out. Thank them for helping me keep the lights on. Thank them for all their support. Please like this. As you leave, guys, please hit that thumbs up button. You can hit the X on the chat screen. If you're watching it live, hit the X on the chat box. You'll see the thumbs up button. Hit it, please. It's totally free. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you're new here, if you're watching this on a replay, same thing. The thumbs up button really helps the YouTube algorithm, helps push this out to more people. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible, but I need your help to do it. So please share this out with as many people as you possibly can, people that you think might enjoy the content, whether they're Big 12. Oh, and by the way, I got to throw this advertisement out there. Tonight at 7 p.m., right here on the channel, Matt Thornsberry will have the second airing of Matt's Big 12 Blitz. He will be talking all Big 12 football. He'll be talking about the contenders and the pretenders in the Big 12, focusing on this weekend's games. Got Terry Alford, who's now been a member for 5 months. Terry, thank you for your support, my man. Got to put the coonskin cap back on. He says, I don't care when they play as long as they do. Terry, that's where I'm at, my man. That's where I'm at. Totally with you. Thank you for the support, Terry. Thank you for being a VIP member. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks to my sponsors. Thanks for your support. Make sure you have a top shelf day. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy some football. It's Backyard Brawl Week. Let's go, Mountaineers. Q Country Roads.